When Israel strikes deep into the heart of the Gulf, the entire Arab and Islamic world takes notice, and they're not happy about it. The ripple effects from last week's controversial Israeli attack on Hamas operatives in Doha are about to create one of the most significant diplomatic showdowns in recent Middle Eastern history. On Monday, September 14th, an emergency Arab-Islamic summit will convene in Qatar's capital, bringing together leaders from across the region in what many are calling a defining moment for regional alliances. But here's where it gets controversial. This isn't just about condemning Israel's actions. It's about whether the Arab world will fundamentally reshape its relationship with the Jewish state, potentially undoing years of normalization efforts. The emergency gathering, which combines members of both the Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, represents something far more significant than a routine diplomatic meeting. According to a draft resolution obtained by Reuters, participating nations are preparing to denounce Israel's September 9th strike as a destabilizing escalation that threatens regional security. The document goes further, expressing unified opposition to what they perceive as Israel's plans to impose a new reality in the region. What makes this summit particularly intriguing is the timing and the players involved. The attack, which Hamas claims resulted in the deaths of 5 of its members, though reportedly sparing key leadership figures, has achieved something that seemed nearly impossible just weeks ago. It has united Gulf Arab states in a show of solidarity with Qatar, despite their often complex relationships. And this is the part most people miss. The United Arab Emirates, which made headlines in 2020 by becoming one of the first Arab nations to normalize relations with Israel under the Abraham Accords, has now summoned the deputy Israeli ambassador to express its displeasure. This dramatic shift suggests that even Israel's newfound Arab allies have limits to what they'll tolerate. Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abul Gheit captured the essence of the moment perfectly when he told Asharq al-Awsat newspaper that the gathering sends a clear message. Qatar is not alone, and Arab and Islamic states stand by it. This statement carries weight that extends far beyond diplomatic pleasantries. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu isn't backing down from the pressure. In fact, he's doubling down on his demands. Speaking on Wednesday, Netanyahu delivered what many interpreted as an ultimatum to Qatar. Either expel Hamas officials or bring them to justice, because if you don't, we will. This hardline stance has only intensified the diplomatic crisis. But here's what makes the situation even more complex. Qatar has served as one of the most crucial mediators in efforts to end the devastating Gaza conflict that has now stretched nearly 2 years. The small Gulf nation has positioned itself as an essential bridge between Hamas and international negotiators, including the United States. Qatar's leadership has fired back at Israel's actions, accusing Netanyahu's government of practicing state terrorism and deliberately sabotaging peace negotiations. The human cost of this diplomatic chess game cannot be ignored. Among those killed in the Israeli strike was a member of Qatar's internal security forces, adding a personal dimension to Qatar's outrage. The broader Gaza conflict has exacted a horrific toll, with local Palestinian authorities reporting more than 64,000 deaths since Israel launched its military campaign following Hamas's October 7, 2023 attacks, which killed 1,200 people and resulted in 251 hostages being taken, according to Israeli figures. Presently, Hamas continues to hold 48 hostages, making Qatar's role as a mediator even more critical. The Gulf nation has been working alongside the United States to negotiate a ceasefire deal that would secure the release of the remaining captives. Perhaps most surprisingly, U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed dissatisfaction with Israel's decision to conduct the strike on Qatari soil. Trump characterized the attack as counterproductive to both Israeli and American objectives, while simultaneously praising Qatar as a close ally working hard to broker peace. However, Trump's position includes apparent contradictions. While criticizing the timing and location of the strike, he acknowledged that eliminating Hamas was a worthy goal. Following the attack, Trump reportedly assured Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani that such a thing will not happen again on their soil. Netanyahu, however, remains convinced that his strategy is correct. Speaking on Saturday, the Israeli leader argued that removing Hamas leadership from Qatar would eliminate the main obstacle to releasing hostages still held by the group in Gaza and ending the war. This perspective puts him at odds not only with Qatar and other Arab nations, but potentially with his most important ally, the United States. The UAE's response has been particularly telling. As the most prominent Arab state to normalize relations with Israel under the Abraham Accords, the Emirates' decision to formally protest represents a significant diplomatic shift. UAE officials have gone so far as to describe Qatar's stability as an inseparable part of the security and stability of the states of the Gulf Cooperation Council, which includes regional heavyweight Saudi Arabia. What's fascinating about this crisis is how it's reshaping alliances that seemed solid just months ago. The sight of Gulf Arab states, including those that had warmed to Israel, now closing ranks around Qatar, suggests that regional solidarity may trump individual bilateral relationships when sovereignty is perceived to be at stake. The draft resolution being considered by Monday's summit notably stops short of proposing specific diplomatic or economic sanctions against Israel. However, diplomats caution that the document could still evolve before leaders meet, potentially becoming more hardline depending on the political winds. This raises a provocative question that cuts to the heart of Middle Eastern geopolitics. Are we witnessing the beginning of the end for the Abraham Accords normalization process, or is this simply a temporary diplomatic storm that will eventually pass? The answer may well depend on how Israel chooses to respond to the united Arab and Islamic front that's forming against its actions. Netanyahu's government finds itself in an increasingly isolated position, facing criticism not only from traditional adversaries, but also from allies who had previously shown willingness to work with the Jewish state. As leaders prepare to gather in Doha, the stakes couldn't be higher. The decisions made in the coming days could determine whether the Middle East moves toward further conflict and division, or whether diplomatic wisdom prevails over military action. What do you think? Has Israel overstepped by conducting military operations on the sovereign soil of a U.S. ally? Or is Netanyahu justified in pursuing Hamas leaders wherever they may be hiding, regardless of diplomatic niceties? Should Arab nations that normalized relations with Israel reconsider those agreements when situations like this arise? The implications of this crisis extend far beyond Qatar's borders, and your perspective on these questions could shape how we understand the future of Middle Eastern diplomacy.